Good morning, students. It's me, Miss Sanya, and today we are back with another lesson. As you all know that we have completed attempts at constitutional reforms part 2 in the previous lecture. So today I am starting with constitutional attempts at constitutional reforms part 3 in today's lecture, which is from 1927 till 1935. Now, I am zooming the screen so that you can see very clearly that what exactly the content is written. But before moving forward, hurry up, grab your notebook along with pencil and pen and start noting the important pointers. And you are already familiar with other guidelines. So let's move forward. We will discuss in these reforms about all of these pictures, which you can see in the display. This is the content for today, which I have selected, attempts at constitutional reforms, in which we are going to study about Simon Commission, NEHRO Report, Jinnah's 14 points, Roundtable Conference, Government of Indian Act. All of these things play a very important role in the historical perspective. I will discuss in detail about all of these things because there were multiple MCQs which were included in your past papers. Now, moving forward, when I talk about Simon Commission 1927, so you can see it over here. There are two pictures which are given. In Simon Commission 1927, Sir John Simon, which is on the right side, the picture of that person, he played a very important and prominent role into this. And the reaction of Indians, you can see in this picture very clearly, in which it is written, Simon, go back. It means that all of the Indians are coming on roads and they were protesting against this Simon Commission. Now let's discuss about the details of Simon Commission. A group of 7 British Parliament members arrived in India to study constitutional reforms for India. When I talk about constitutional reforms, it means that it is a written agreement in which you're speaking about that what policies should be introduced to better the conditions of the government and to better the conditions of the subcontinent. When I talk about British Parliament, it means the government officials which are included in the cabinet. It means those government officials which take decision and which tells that what should be done further into the subcontinent. So there were 7 Britishers which were involved at that time in India when they arrived over there. Now, when I talk about the features of Simon Commission, so you can see on the right side, there are multiple features. Let's start from the first one. Diarchy in the province should be abolished and ministers should be responsible to the provincial legislatures. Now, when I talk about diarchy, it means there is one rule system, there is only one leader, and you have to follow that leader. In the provinces should be abolished. It means that you cannot make your own government, you cannot make your own leader. It would be decided by the main government that who will be the leader and what should be done next. Okay, so it means that you cannot make any sort of political party, you have to obey the Britishers in that context. When I talk about abolish, abolish means to ban something. It means that you're not allowed to do anything without the permission of the government. And ministers should be made responsible to the provincial legislatures. Provincial means all of those provinces, they have to first report to the higher body and then they're allowed to take decisions. But without reporting it to the higher body, they cannot take decisions on their behalf. Now, the second point, at the center, a federal assembly would be constituted on the basis of representation of the provinces and other areas as per population. When I talk about federal assembly actually have the right to take decisions into their hand and to tell about the decisions that what should be done further. All right. Federal assembly is the center point, and federal assembly, you can say that they are the head of the departments in the government. Would be constituted on the basis of representation of the provinces. They all were representing their provinces in the subcontinent and other areas as per population. It means that if, for example, in one of the city, if Muslims are in majority, then the decision will be in favor of Muslims. Similarly, in the other province, if the Indians are in majority, then the decision will be taken in favor of the Indians. Now, moving towards the third point. The power of the central government and the provincial governors should be reduced. It means they're not having any, they are not having full powers that they can take decisions on their behalf. No, the decisions which will be given to them or the decisions which will be told to them by the higher bodies, they have to follow those decisions. It means there were few powers which were not allotted to them. Federal system of the government should be introduced in India. Federal system means that there would be one leader and you have to follow that leader. The right to vote would be extended to more people. It means more people can give votes and more people can elect the leader for themselves. So these were the features of Simon Commission. Now let's talk about the outcome of the Simon Commission. First point, the report was not acceptable for Muslims, Hindus, and also for the elected members of the Indian Legislative Assembly. The major reason why Muslims and Hindus, they both were not in favor of Simon Commission, because as we have discussed in the previous slide, you can see it very clearly that it was completely in favor of the Britishers. It was not speaking any sort of rights about the Muslims and Hindus. Coming towards the next point, Indians were outraged at their exclusion from the commission. It means that Indians were protesting. They boycotted completely. They stood up on roads and they started protesting against, which I have already shown you in the picture, that they were completely against Simon Commission. The Congress party, Congress, here we are talking about the party of Indians, because Congress was the political party of Indians. The Congress party decided to boycott the commission at their session at Madras in 1927. It means it was boycotted at Madras in 1927. Now, further, when we discuss about the outcome of Simon Commission, then it states that the Muslim League led by Muhammad Ali Jinnah also boycotted it. It means that the both of the political parties, either either the belongings are for Indians, from Indians, or either the belongings are from Muslims, both of them boycotted it. Number two, when the commission landed in February 1928, there was mass protests, strikes, and black flag demonstration all over the country. See, here the word is black flag. You are raising black flag at that time when you're boycotting with something and when you're raising your voice against something, right? People were chanting the slogan, Simon, go back. Chanting means there was a mass, there was a huge protest which was going on, and people were continuously saying that they don't need Simon anymore in the subcontinent. So the impact of the Simon Commission was, the first point, the Simon Commission report was published in 1930. It recommended the abolition of diarchy and the setting up of representative governments in the provinces. It means that nobody was allowed to set up anything before asking the Muslims about it. The Simon Commission, or the Indians as well. The Simon Commission led to the Government of Indian Act 1935, which acted as the basis for many parts of the current Indian constitution, because many of the Muslims and Indians were not in favor of that. Due to this thing, Indian Act 1935 was introduced, and according to Indian Act, different amendments were made. Amendment means that you are making changes in the constitution. Now, let's talk about NEHRO Report 1928. All parties conferences in February 1928 prepared a draft for the constitutional reforms for India under the chairmanship of Motilal Nehru. When I talk about Motilal Nehru, then as I've mentioned before about it, when we are talking about Indian Act 1935, the constitution in which it is decided that what steps should be taken further, it was revived. It means the constitutional reforms were discussed, and then different amendments were made under the chairmanship of Motilal Nehru, that what you have to do further. Okay. Now, when I talk about the features of NEHRO report, the first feature says that separate electorate should be replaced with the joint electorate. It means that you have to replace it with the joint electorate, that both of the Indians and Muslims are having that permission that they can elect themselves into the government, or they can elect themselves, or they can stand in the elections. Number two, the Foreign Affairs, Army, and Defense should be placed under the control of Parliament and Viceroy. The major reason that they were giving it under control of the Parliament and Viceroy, because they wanted themselves, they wanted to self-defense themselves. They also wanted to defend their communities and to defend all of those people who were living at that time into the subcontinent. Coming towards the third point, full provincial status be given to NWFP and Balochistan. It means the right should be given to them, that if they want to vote, so they can vote for themselves. No 1/3 seats for the Muslims in Central Assembly. It means that they needed seats, but it was a problem for the Muslims to elect themselves or to stood up into the Central Assembly. No reservations of seats for the Muslim in Punjab and Bengal. They were not having the seats So in this Nehru, okay, now when we talk about the Nehru report, then it states that according to Nehru report, Muslims should not be given the seats in Punjab and Bengal. Sindh should be made province if it were capable of bearing its expenditures. And then they said that if Muslims can bear the expenditure of Sindh, then Sindh will be the part of the new state, what would be given to what would be given under the leadership of Qaeda-Azam. Otherwise, if they cannot bear the expensive, then Sindh will not be divided. This was stated in Nehru report. Now, when we talk about the impact of the Nehru report, the first point is the report was not acceptable to the Muslims because it was the reflection of Hindu hostility. You can clearly see that Nehru report was completely in favor of Indians but not in favor of Muslims. This is the main reason it was not accepted. Number two, Jinnah considered it as the parting of the ways, no more efforts for Hindu-Muslim unity, and he started to work on two-nation theory. That was the major reason, but students were also asking me that what was the major reason behind two-nation theory? That was the major reason. Number three, this report cancelled the Lucknow Pact 1916 and led the Jinnah towards his famous 14 points. 1916, the agreement between the Hindus and Muslims, which they on that platform which they amalgamated, so that Lucknow Pact was completely cancelled between both of them, and then Jinnah introduced his 14 points. Now, when I talk about Jinnah introduces 14 points, then the points were introduced in 1929. Muhammad Ali Jinnah convened a meeting in Delhi in 1929 and formulated the constitutional reforms for India in the form of his famous 14 points. No constitution shall be accepted by Muslims of the India without the 14 points, in which he emphasizes and he highlights that whatever 14 points he is giving, it should be considered in favor of Muslims. Now, moving forward to the features of 14 point. The first point is the form of the feature constitution should be federal with the residuary powers vested in the provinces. It means that we are having the powers. It should be allotted to the federal government. They will take decisions about the people of the Muslim people who are living in the subcontinent. Number two, full religious liberty, liberty of belief, worship and observance, association and education shall be granted to all communities. Here, Jinnah was speaking not only in favor of Muslims, but he was also speaking in favor of the minorities who were living in the subcontinent, that they should be given complete right to do anything. Third point, Muslims should be given adequate share along with other Indians in the services of the state. It means they should be offered with jobs. They should be offered with the same respect. They should be treated the same way as the other Indians are living in the subcontinent. Muslims should be treated that same way, in that same way. Sindh should be separated from the Bombay Presidency. This point was the most emphasized point in the 14 points which Qaeda-Azam stated. Next point, in the second legislative, Muslim representation shall not be less than 1/3. He wanted Muslims to be represented as 1/3 in the government. Any territorial redistribution that might at any time be necessary shall not be in any way affect the Muslim majority in the Punjab, Bengal and the NWFP. He stated completely onto this point that if we are getting separated, if you are talking about another state, then the majorities or the minorities who will come and they'll have independence with us, so no rights would be, you can say that, affected into that way, and it should be aparted from the subcontinent. Reforms should be introduced in NWFP and Balochistan on the same footing as in other provinces. He stated this thing, that in NWFP and Balochistan, the reforms should be introduced in favor of them. Jinnah received a moderate response from the Muslim community and welcomed by his Muslim colleagues. Among the Hindus, and 14 points were scorned, with Jawaharlal Nehru referring to them as Jinnah ridiculous 14 points. Jawaharlal Nehru was not in favor of that, but Muslims came up to this idea, and all of the Muslims of the subcontinent, he supported the 14 points of Qaeda-Azam. Now, the importance of Jinnah's 14 points. The importance of these points can be judged by the fact of these points were presented in Roundtable Conference of 1930. It was presented in the Roundtable Conference, and then a comparison of the Nehru report with the Qaeda-Azam 14 points showed that the political gap between the Muslims and the Hindus had really widened. It was completely cleared, and it was completely showed over there, in which you can see the clear gap, in which Muslims are in favor of these points, but Indians are not supporting them in these points. So We will continue the other part of the constitutional reforms in the next slide. So just wait for the next part of it, and then you can see it over